Welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show with Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse. And in this podcast, we will be talking about healthcare, self-care, diversity, careers, and well-being from a Black woman's perspective. We're really happy that you're here. So if you're ready, let's get on with the show.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dawn Jarvis Show. And I'm Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse. In this podcast, I talk to and about busy leaders, professionals, and business owners, learning about what they do and why they do it, and how they prioritize their own health and well-being and stay focused and productive. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by the multi-talented virtuoso Michelle May. I know Michelle because we were in a mastermind together, and today our topic is how helpers and healers can thrive in extraordinary times. We are going to discuss that it's okay for helpers and healers to need helpers and healers, that boundaries are important, and so we need to prioritize when necessary, and how to become your own best healer. Hi, Michelle. How are you doing?
Hello. Hi, Dawn. I'm very, very well. So happy to be here.
So good to see you. And we certainly are living in extraordinary times. So I think we are. So this topic's going to resonate with a lot of people. So let me introduce you. Michelle May is a licensed professional counselor, professional musician, and a coach for creative professionals. She has her own practice, A.M. May and Associates Inc., with her sister, Dr. Angela Celeste May, who is a psychologist and also a musician. The May sisters have been educating, motivating, and inspiring for over 25 years through counselling, coaching, consulting, workshops, and speaking engagements. That's amazing. So, Michelle, you have a very, very impressive bio in CV, and obviously a very talented family. How did you get to where you are today?
Wow, that's a whole podcast within itself, but I'll give you the highlights. I am in the United States. I am specifically in Detroit, Michigan, and Detroit, Michigan is an internationally known for music, as you know. You probably know Motown. Absolutely, you can't say Detroit without Motown. But what people don't realize is that we actually have a thriving music community, and have for many, many decades, back many years ago, in all the genres. And you name it, we've got it. So any type of international music that you like, world music, jazz, of course, R&B, popular music, classical music. And what people don't often know is that, Black Americans in Detroit have been very prominent in all of those genres, even classical music. So I was very fortunate to grow up in this area, in this city. My mother was a concert pianist, and my father was also a singer and a percussionist, although he also worked for the automotive industry, because that's the other thing Detroit, of course, is known for. Is the cars. Yep, internationally known for that. So we grew up in a house full of music. It's my sister and also my younger brother. I'm the oldest. And so we started music lessons young. And my sister is a vocalist, but we all had like piano lessons, violin, flute lessons. I was the one that stuck with the violin and flute. So I am a professional violinist and flutist. I've been performing for, over 40 years now.
Wow.
And I performed with a lot of very famous people, and as well as having my own group. But anyway, so that's kind of the music end of things. As far as the mental health end of things, my original training from college, university, was in education, because I also grew up with a family of educators too. And so I was in education, but later I was drawn to mental health. I started working in a mental health outpatient program, and I was noticing that the social workers were doing a lot of wonderful work, and I thought, wow, that's intriguing. And I decided to kind of go for counseling because it was more into education than it was into just like strictly maybe clinical or hospital or things like that. And education was still very important for me, to be an educator and to do that. So So I went and got my master's degree in counseling from the local university. And that's how I started in that. But I really wanted to do my counseling in an educational setting and in a higher educational setting. So I became a university counselor.
Wow.
I was actually an academic advisor for a while. And then I transitioned over to another college, a community college, where for the last 25 years, I was a college counselor. And I was providing services with personal, academic, and career counseling.
Brilliant.
For many hundreds of students. And so fast forward to today, how I became how I am now. My sister and I started our private practice back in 1996 when I was in between a full-time and a part-time job. And so I continued to do the part-time counseling, but also we were running our business too. And in our business, my sister is a psychologist, my younger sister, she's a doctor of psychology. And so we were providing counseling services, but also consulting services. We were often asked to speak and put on workshops and things like that. And so about a year ago, about 3 years ago, 2018, I think that's been 3 years now, I was awarded a very prestigious fellowship here as a result of my music work. And so I began to feel like, I really want to take the rest of my life to a new level too. So my sister and I started working on relaunching our business so that we would have more of a reach outside of the local area, as well as I wanted to do things like, just provide more services out of our own business, and also really to make more revenue too, just to be honest. I mean,
absolutely.
Right, there's nothing wrong with that. So a year ago in March, we relaunched in the virtual space because, of course, we had to with COVID. But ironically, we were already prepared because a year prior to that, that's when I met the business coach that you and I have, and rebranded ourselves. I decided, I said, what I'm really doing is coaching here at the college. I want to continue to do that because I'm a very good coach and counselor. Yeah. And so long story short, we rebranded last year as really an international, because with the internet, you can reach everyone, as we're showing right now today.
Absolutely.
And so it's really, really been a wonderful, wonderful relaunch, and just everything has lined up exactly the way that we wanted to, and we're looking forward to continuing to grow in this space.
Fantastic. That is wonderful. And I know that you can share with our audience, I know you've sort of transitioned into sort of retiring from sort of like your educational background. How's that been? Because that's, I think, as you become into your different season, I was told that today, it's a different season. It's not midlife, it's a different season. So,
exactly.
These things are challenging, they're good, but they're challenging in their own way, aren't they? So I think so. So I know from my point of view, sort of like moving from a corporate job into being a business owner, although that was what I really wanted to do, that was quite challenging. So you think about yourself and your identity in a certain way, like you're a musician, I'm a nurse, you're a counselor, but you're also a business owner. So, how was that for you?
So it's very interesting. So you're right. I don't like to say that I'm retired because I'm not retired. And actually, so for the audience, just to kind of give you context, I worked for 25 years for the last college I was at, and I just retired in August to run the business full time with my sister. So originally I was going to just resign. And they were like, no, you've been here for so long. If you say you're retired, you get more recognition. So I'm like, okay,
I'm present.
But
I'm present.
Yeah, exactly. And you get to be in the history of the college, as if you resign, then you just leave, So I did that. So, but I'm not embracing that this is retirement. But at any rate, so I can tell you one thing, and this is something that I will hope everybody learns. The thing that has been a transition really for me has been, I was kind of on this, as they say, hamster wheel of having a certain schedule, having to be at a certain place at a certain time within a certain, even though I was very fortunate to have a flexible schedule, I worked my own hour. We had a certain amount of hours we had to work, but you could work them however you want. And I'm not an early morning person, so my day would usually start about 11 and I would go to 7. But there's still so many years of that. And then when I retired, I almost had this feeling like, okay, I need to get going. I need to get these, clients in, and I need, and it was just kind of a minute of maybe mini panic,
Yeah, I hear you.
But I started to realize, wait a minute, you really do need to give yourself grace and time to make that transition. I'm not, in a situation, fortunately, where I don't have any resources. I have multiple streams of income. I'm also married. Yeah, I'm also married, so I have a partner that, my husband works also. So, and there's a lot of things in my life that we're very fortunate that are already taken care of for right now. So I had to really deliberately take a step back and breathe and say, okay, you know what? No, you don't. You don't have to jump into the schedule right now. You can start gradually increasing things and bringing on the things that you need. And it certainly helped me a lot to be in the moment more, to not be so worried about what's going to happen in a couple weeks, or how am I going to handle the next 6 months? Or I have, for me, it's just been what do I need to do next? What do I need to do next? How am I going to handle today? It's something that my mother used to always say to us, that, all you have is right now. All you have is right now. And boom, that just went.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that has, for me, that has been helpful. It's funny, my husband asked me the other day, so what are we doing for Thanksgiving? I said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Thanksgiving is in November. United States Thanksgiving is in November. Absolutely. I'm not thinking that far ahead right now. We'll just handle today. But so that's been the biggest change really for me, because we've been planning for this for a while. So I'm prepared with the resources and the community. I have a new community of people that I'm working with. That's always very important for me, to be surrounded with positive folks that are helpful. So I have that, but I have to do that, the inside, that inner work also, understanding that I do bring, high level skills, abilities, talents, but I don't have to panic about what's going to happen next. And so that's been the biggest change for me. And it's that transition has been working. That new mindset has been working.
It's a work in progress, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I so hear you. You're so used to I used to get the train to work every day. I live 10 minutes from the train station. I used to time it, and then I think, oh no, missed the train. And then, then I'll get the next one. And then you're on the train for half an hour, and then you sit there doing nothing. And then you're then at work at day, and then you've got to come back. It's dark, dark when you're in this, as you said, a hamster wheel, and you don't have to do that anymore. You just don't have to do that. You can take your time, and I've had to say to myself, you don't have to panic, Donnie, it's all right, just ease into this. So, it's a chance. Yeah, absolutely. I love that expression. Expression. And so do you still do music as well? Because I know music's so important to you, and you're not really sort of playing that up. So if you look at Michelle's website, she's amazing, and she does lots of stuff. She's not really sad what she does.
No. So no, music is absolute. I have literally been hearing music since I was in the womb because of my mother. So there's no music is definitely there, and I'm so blessed to be able to bring that creativity really to everything I do. So as far as my music, I'm the last year was very difficult worldwide for artists and artists in general, no matter what whether you were a dancer, a musician, you were an actor, a visual artist, all of that, literally shut down overnight, as of last year. It was just all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. And so, those things are starting to come back. It was interesting how wonderful the virtual, everyone kind of pivoted, artists did, into the virtual space of still providing performances or, doing their shows or things like that, they had to do it virtually. And, we do miss that interaction. So as a matter of fact, last year in the fall, here in Detroit, we have a very big and well-known jazz festival. Detroit, it used to be called the Detroit International Jazz Festival. But so last year, they were going to shut it down altogether, but they pivoted to virtual, and I actually performed in a group. And it was really interesting. We did this. There were no audiences. It was in one of our main hotels in the ballrooms. And the only people allowed there were the performers and, of course, the technical staff and all of that. So it was different because, after you played and everything, and then it was like nothing. Right at home, right. Right. If you were looking at something, you might have seen something scroll across the screen, but it was like dead silent. So, we were like kind of clapping for ourselves. But it was still wonderful to be able to play. Hundreds of thousands of people still saw us around the world. I also produce shows. I produce house concerts. I live in a beautiful historic neighborhood, in one of many in Detroit. That's something else people don't know about Detroit.
They don't actually.
No, we have beautiful architecture. Forget what you heard. We have that other stuff too, but we actually have. It's people who come to Detroit are absolutely blown away, and so I'm very fortunate that I live in one of those neighborhoods. It's a generational thing because my great grandmother purchased the home that we're in, and so I inherited it. But anyway, in my neighborhood, for the past 11 years, I founded and produce a house concert series. So we bring musicians into our beautiful homes in the neighborhood to perform. Now, last year, nobody was coming in anybody's house with coronavirus. But many of my neighbors have beautiful yards. So we just transitioned to doing everything in the yards. And it was wonderful to be able to have an opportunity to not only for me to perform, but also to bring my colleagues, my music colleagues, to come and have concerts also. So I've continued to do that. I also actually do that in 2 historic neighborhoods. I produce those. There's a local coffee house. I bring musicians to them also. And my own group, which is called Musique Noire, which is Black music in French.
I love that.
We are a mostly women-led strings and percussion ensemble, and we perform world jazz. We've been out performing. We're finishing up our 4th release. We're recording and everything, and so that hopefully will be out in the spring. Long story short, music has not stopped. Music has not stopped.
I'm glad to hear how resourceful you are, particularly in these extraordinary times, and it is amazing. So Michelle and I were in a mastermind together with a lady that did everything in person, and she just pivoted to do everything online, and was more successful, I think, in that sort of like that in that pandemic era. And now she does a hybrid effort, and so it's amazing how resourceful people can be. Like, my daughter's an actress, and my niece is a musical theatre actress, and the things that people are doing to get sort of like art out there is amazing. It doesn't stop, like you say, it just carries on, and people are very resourceful around it, aren't they?
Yeah, so we needed it more than ever last year.
Absolutely, we certainly did, and it's sort of like it meant the importance of connection, and what music means to people, and what art means to people, and what it brings to people, I think really came to the forefront there. So we are living in extraordinary times, and so you say that it's okay for helpers and healers to need helpers and healers, and I hear you, but tell me a little bit more of what you mean by that.
Yes, so there's a saying that says every therapist should have a therapist. Right? And so I don't necessarily think that, but I do know that every helper and healer should have some sort of support, whether that's a support group or a therapist or a community, something. And I don't just mean like your family. That's good. But I mean a step further, where you're surrounded by people who truly understand what you do, and maybe do some of the same things, but you are, able to go and vent, dump, get pats on the back, support, those kind of things, whether that's you having your own therapist or your own coach. You and I know, of course, know the value of coaching and all of that, getting that for ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's important because now that I'm really into a lot of, like, I'm in a couple of really good Facebook groups of clinicians but hearing the burnout, everybody's still talking, the burn, and I'm listening to them talk about their schedules, which are incredible. And it's like I'm thinking, no wonder you're burned out. But the therapist in me wants to dig deeper. Like, how did you get to that point? You know what I mean? And but it's important because for all of us, we need to know that it's okay to be in that space where we need it. And for some people, and I have been that way, in the past and a little bit sometimes now, but where, asking for help is not a weakness. It doesn't mean that you failed. It's actually one of the strongest things that you can do for men, women, non-binary, anyone, for anyone, any person. It's one of the most strong things that you can do is to reach out and just say, I can't handle all of this. Can I get some help? Or can I get some feedback? Or and so I still hear people saying, I don't want to bother folks, or I don't want to ask for help. Or it starts to look like maybe I didn't do something that I wasn't supposed to do. So we are, as helpers and healers, are in that space, particularly when we're talking about extraordinary times. This past year, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, at the beginning of March, when I was still at the college, it was one of the first times in a long time that I actually felt overwhelmed as a clinician, because the amount of anxiety that was coming my way from my students and my clients was a lot. And I've had that before, but the difference is we're in a pandemic where with a novel coronavirus, novel means new for everybody. So nobody had the answers. No one had the answers. So we're used to, as healers, and clinicians, able to say, okay, here's what you can do. And now we're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say.
I think that's so right.
Yes.
I think that it was so right, because it was novel. It was unprecedented. I think I said the word unprecedented every day in 2020. It was unprecedented. Yeah, it was.
Exactly.
And like you as a nurse, and I worked for a large sort of overseeing organization that was supposed to have the answers, that was supposed to be able to tell people what to do. And I suppose we've seen the fallibility of man, haven't we, really, that nobody does really have all the answers, although they might purport to, and that everyone just does their best. And I think that we're transitioning to a new way of being, the new normal, even though I do hate that expression. And we've got to sort of like, nothing is certain, because we've been through what seemed impossible, and so now we've got to find a new way of being. And I too see with nurses and doctors and people in the medical profession, people I used to work with, people I still know, that they are burnt out. They are keeping going. They're running on adrenaline. But I am seeing also that people are recognizing that, as you say, helpers need and healers need helpers and healers. And I a bit of my experience, I used to work in children's intensive care with children with congenital heart disease, and it was horrific. And I was a lot younger, and but at that time, this is like we're going back 20 years now, they used to have we used to have debriefs with psychologists, because we used to see things that weren't normal.
Absolutely.
And it was, and so that was normal for me to have to debrief with a psychologist about what we had experienced, seeing children die, the reaction of their parents, and quite traumatic things that happened. And we talked to a psychologist about it. It was important. And so now I'm hoping that people are sort of having that space, like you say, to sort of like process you know, the extraordinary things that have happened that haven't been in our lifetime. I liken it to, you know, World War II. You know, that was extraordinary, wasn't it? And, you know, I feel sorry for our children living through this, because they're not having the same experiences of university, college, and, you know, moving away from home, maybe staying at home where they didn't want to, and things like that. So I think it's different for everyone.
Right, very much so. I think so. That brings up a, you know, the issue also is that we're not out of this yet. There's still a lot of unknowns. You know, so we've got vaccines now, but there's people that are still getting coronavirus with vaccines, and we don't know how long the vaccines are going to last. And now there's all this, you know, who can wear a mask and who doesn't want to wear a mask. And so there's just, it's a lot of residual that anxiety and so forth that's going to be with us for a little while.
So you talk about boundaries that they are important and that we need to prioritize the necessary. Talk me through that. How do you know, again, I can see where we're going with this, but I really want you to talk us through it.
Yeah, so I like that, prioritize the necessary, so, and that boundaries are important. So this again is taking care of yourself in extraordinary terms. So when I say prioritize the necessary, so what's necessary? It's necessary that we eat. It's necessary that we take in liquids. It's necessary that we move our bodies. It's necessary that we take care of our health. But it's amazing because a lot of times all those things, I mean, that sounded pretty obvious, but how many of us don't prioritize that? How many of us go through the whole day and we're like, no, I'm not. I mean, I don't anymore because, you know, I'm in pretty good health, but I'm monitoring my blood pressure, and other things that I have, you know, that, you know, some high blood pressure and heart diseases in my family. So you know, after I went through menopause, it started showing itself, you know, and with my blood pressure going up and things like that. So I'm monitoring those things, so those things seem obvious, but, you know, so many people, like I said, they'll go through the whole day and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't eat today. And they have a headache and they think it's because of stress. Well, it's actually a little simpler than that. And, you know, you're a nurse, you know how this goes.
I know.
Some of these things are not complicated. It's just you didn't eat today. Okay. So, and, you know, they're ready to run to the physicians to ask for, you know, medicinal remedies when a lot of these things can just be cleared up with drinking water. You know, moving your body, you know, whole food as opposed to processed foods and things like that. So what's not necessary is being surrounded by toxic people, not being able to say no when you know you need to take a step back. That's something that I had to do just recently. I serve on a couple of boards, board of directors for a couple of nonprofits. And I was an officer in one, a vice president. And all of this, they were involved in a big project. And all of this started to happen when I was leaving the job, you know, making the decision to leave the job and putting all of that in place and working on my business. And I realized something had to go. And as much as, you know, I keep my commitments, I do. But this was getting to be extraordinary because my blood pressure was actually going up. And so prioritizing the necessary means that wasn't necessary. That board position wasn't necessary. My health is necessary. So I think that's something that if you can just even use those three words, prioritize the necessary, to kind of look at your day and how you're living your life. And if you're feeling stress and anxiety, is there something in your life that you're prioritizing? It's not necessary. It's not necessary.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, I like that. It's a slogan. And having those boundaries around what is important, which is you, isn't it? Really, because if you don't eat and drink properly, that you's not going to exist anymore, is it? Really, or not going to be functioning fully. So you need to prioritize what's the necessary. Definitely, absolutely. I love that.
Absolutely. And so for some people it is difficult depending on, because you may be in a toxic work environment. You and I know, I mean, we left for various reasons, but we were able to do that. But it takes a decision. You have to make a decision, and it takes knowing that you're going to be okay, even if you jump out there. I stopped even I even changed the vocabulary. I talk to my clients all the time about how you speak about a thing. And so people would say to me, you're getting ready to retire, and go into your business, that must be scary. And I would tell them, no, it isn't. Even though it might have been for a minute, but no, it's not. It's a challenge. It's things that I'm going to work on, but I'm not scared of it. And that really was the truth. I wasn't scared of it because I'd been there before. But if you embrace those terms all the time, that can affect you, mentally, physically, spiritually. And if you start to speak about your experiences in a different way, in a more empowering way, and even though that sounds like, oh, hoo-ha, it's actually very true. I mean, I'm a witness. It helped for me. It definitely helped for me. So prioritizing the necessary and putting boundaries around, your time and the things that you spend time doing and the people that you spend time doing them with, across all aspects of your life.
That's amazing. And I think just to go what you're saying about leaving your job and your monthly paycheck, which is sort of like, I did have a little bit of anxiety about that, but the way I decided to embrace it and talk about it like an opportunity. I've got the opportunity to do my business full time, so I reframed it, and I did that quite deliberately. And when I talk about it now, I say I had the opportunity to do my business full time, and that sounds different than, oh, I got laid off. So
right. That even sounds better than to me, that sounds better than I retired for me. Because, retired, I'm just not in that mindset. So, so I love that. And you feel so much better. I do feel better when I speak about things that way. And when you say it that way, I had this opportunity, and it sounds more like you have a lot of power around that. These were my decisions. And this is something that's going to happen.
And you're moving towards it rather than being pushed. You're making that decision to move towards it. So Michelle, this is really brilliant. How do you become your own best healer? What tips could you give us around that?
So, well, because for this particular segment, I'm talking to those of us that are healers and helpers. One of the first things that also really helped me too was, like, I would start to say, now what would you tell your clients?
Good one. I have to do that. I have to do that all the time. And I say, so what would you say to yourself, Dawn?
Right. Really, so, and I'm a person, my theme, and you'll see this a lot in my, even my coaching program is called that, abundant, authentic life. Authenticity is very, very important to me. It's very important. It always has been. Even when I was younger, I never wanted to be a fraud. And although my life when I was younger, I had a lot of low self-esteem I had to work through years. And I was often in situations and around people who weren't authentic to, didn't align with who I was. But because my self-esteem was low and I was more interested in being liked and being a part of the group, even in college and stuff, I was involved in a lot of stuff that just didn't even fit me, and looking back on it, I was like, ugh. But actually, I don't even really look back on it. It shaped who I am today. I don't do regrets. It happened. I learned from it, whatever. So I think being your own best healer, first of all, is all of us that are in the healing spaces, again, like I said, we have knowledge, talent, skills, and ability that allow us to reach people who need our help. And we are able to help provide. I mean, we don't actually do the transformation, but we are able to help support so many fantastic transformations for others. And that is a lot of resources that we can use for ourselves. And so that's the first thing, is recognizing that, one, you're human, you're going to feel certain things, but you know what to do. You know what to do, and recognizing that. And so then the other thing also too is, as I mentioned earlier, is giving ourselves grace, not beating ourselves up, not saying, well, I must be, imposter syndrome. I must be a fraud because I'm not doing the things that I'm telling my clients to do. No, you're not. You're not a fraud. You just haven't taken the time and made the decision to provide what you're providing for them for your own self. And that's okay. It's okay. We all are walking our own path. So giving ourselves grace and having empathy for ourselves goes a long way in helping us be our own best healer. Taking the things that we talked about earlier, setting those boundaries, getting the support. That support it really is a huge thing. It really, really is for a lot. I mean, if you think about it, from the time you're very young, and if you think about the clients and the patients that you work with over the years, and those who had support and nurturing at a younger age versus those that may not have, and you can see the difference. You can see and for me, I'm actually kind of another example of an exception because I had 100% support on a lot of things, but I was not, as a young person, my own best cheerleader. Even though my mother was, and everybody was always telling me, you're so talented, you're so, you're beautiful, you're this and that. And I was always like, no, I'm not, that kind of thing. So I know it now, but that took some work, that took some work. It really will. To be completely honest, I didn't really embrace myself fully until I was in my 40s. And then by the time I hit 50, I literally looked at myself in the mirror and I said, you know what, Michelle, no more foolishness from you. Get it together, and so, but as a young person, it wasn't my family that wasn't nurturing me, although, there was things that happened here, my parents split up and things like that. And that, that's never pretty. But even within that, I still never felt neglected or those kinds of things, but I still had my own reactions to that kind of thing. So, but bottom line is, we need to understand that it is so important for us to provide for ourselves the same thing that we are providing for those that are in our care, because guess what? We're in our care too. I'm in my care. I am my own client. I need to be able to be there fully for my clients and my patients and my clients and my students, but I can't, the saying is, you can't pour into others if you're not pouring into yourself.
Absolutely.
You have to, you must, or else you're going to have burnout. I don't know anybody that says, oh yeah, I'm working 80 hours a week, never taking any breaks, no vacations, and I'm doing fabulous. I've been doing that for years, and I'm amazing. Please. And if you are, you're lying. You're in denial.
Exactly.
You're in denial. You're about to break down.
That is true. That's true. And and you're a long time dad, aren't you? So you have to do it now, don't you? You have to live your life and do what you've got to do those things. Like my sister died at 26 and when I was 34, and it made me realize that life's for living, and you need, and whatever you're going to do, you need to do it. You need to crack on.
Right, exactly. You're right. Yeah, we're not worrying about, like I said, my mother always says, well, how they say, take one day at a time. Take one. It's interesting. So I identify as Christian, and I found this cup. My mother just passed in December, but she used to collect. Thank you. She used to collect coffee cups because she loved coffee. So we have a lot of coffee cups I've been just like giving away or whatever. So I found this one because I keep it out next to my desk.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this one is really for me, because it says here, God is with you in all that you do, but the whole cup is full of Bible verses about not trusting, faith, not worrying. And in particular, the one that I love, I always look at, It's Matthew 6, verse 34. Do not be anxious about tomorrow. So I was like, wow, this is like a message for me, you know. So I don't drink coffee, and it's also kind of like a message from my mom. You know what I mean? I feel like it is that I found this one, and I'm like, oh, I'm not giving this one away. So I just keep it right here next to my computer, and anytime I start to feel like, what tomorrow, and then what am I going to do next week? And I rein that in, or I look at this cup, and that really, really helps. And so people have to put in their own rituals and things, reminders, whatever works for you to remind you to stop and take care of yourself, prioritize the necessary, and take care of yourself so that you can continue to take care of others. Even if that means saying no to some things, even if it means like you and I retiring or leaving our positions, whatever that means.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, exactly. It's important that we do.
We've embraced opportunities, Michelle. That's what we've done. We've embraced opportunities.
Absolutely.
And become bigger and better people. Definitely. So I was going to ask you how you managed your own health and well-being, but you've given us lots of examples of how you have done that and the things that you have done.
Give my water.
Yeah. Drinking water. You've inspired me to drink more water because I do struggle with the water, but I do it. Actually, I make a routine around doing it. I know that I have to drink water. I know that I struggle with it, so then I have to put it in a ritual and do it. And I've just joined the gym, because I think that these things need to happen so that so I can live the longest and happiest life that I can. And I think, and if you know that you struggle with it, then you need to sort of like almost gamify it, don't you? Sort of like, so what needs to happen to make this happen?
Exactly, because I'm like you. I'm not good with the water either. I'm not good, but I have definitely, one of the things that helps me is to drink it in this smaller, because you really need to have, this is 8 ounces. You need to have, 8 of these? Yeah. So for me, it's easier, sometimes it's easier for me to drink 8 of these than to think about the bigger stuff.
Now, and then also big cups. Big cups.
Oh yeah. Right. But I drink tea, I drink tea every day. And then sometimes I also drink like flavored water, but it's no calories, no sugar or anything. It's just, self-flavored seltzer. I have a trainer and I work out with her twice a week because that keeps me accountable. I really, through the years, I've never had like a weight issue or anything like that, because I'm a person, I'm one of these people that, what do they say? I don't live to eat, I eat to live.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't. Sometimes I'm not like, oh, food. I that's just me. Sorry, I know, right? Sorry, it's just I've always been thin, but I haven't obsessed about being thin or anything like. I've never. It's just not. It's just something I do. So now it's really about my health. When I talk to young people, I do a lot of talking about good health and nutrition. I mean, I'm not an expert, but whenever I'm talking about mental health things, I always talk about the physical health things. Mm-hmm. But I tell people that the numbers, and hopefully you can cooperate with with this with me, because being a nurse. But I say start with the numbers of your blood pressure, your blood sugar, things like that, and as opposed to looking at the scale all the time.
Yeah,
so many people obsess over that scale number. Now, if the scale number is causing the other numbers to have an issue, then you might want to look at those together. But I know lots of people who are considered large or bigger who run marathons, who are in great shape, who are in absolute, because their blood pressure is great, they're all kinds of things, and they're not thin rail people. Thin doesn't mean fit. And then on the opposite end, because I was a thin person that wasn't healthy, years ago. I mean, I was eating fast food every day. So, every day I would go to McDonald's and have a quarter pounder with cheese, a large fry, and a medium Coke. I actually even have a picture of me sitting there eating, from when I was younger, eating this stuff. Oh, I ate a lot of that kind of stuff. So, but as they say, when you know better, you do better, right?
Better. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the thing that changed for me was just getting older. Once I started getting older, some of the things I was eating was actually messing with my stomach. So I changed a lot.
And as you say, when you know these things, and when you're young, you think you're going to live forever, don't you? So like my children think they're going to live forever. So
right.
Okay. So, but I said everybody gets old, Trust me. I was 18 months.
That's right. It's coming.
Oh, it's coming. So this has been absolutely wonderful. How can our audience get in touch with you if they want to work with you or be part of your world?
Sure, we'd love to have you. So, all right. So I'm going to give you 3 websites that I'll spell out. So, you can find me. First of all, it's easy to find me on Instagram. It's my full name, which is Michelle Ann May, but there's the underscore in between each word. So Michelle, MICHELLE underscore Ann, ANN underscore May, MAY. So Instagram is a great place to find me. Also, if you start with my website, it actually connects to everything that I have. So my website is my name without the middle. So it's Michelle May, MICHELLEMAY.net, NET. Someone else already had .com, so I had to go with .net.
So who is this person? We're gonna find her.
Right, and I did find her, and actually, she's a doctor. She's a white woman. She's a white, and she talks a lot about nutrition and things like that.
That's amazing. She's been out there. You should do a show together with Michelle May.
Dr. Michelle May and Michelle May. Right? Yes. It's hilarious. Yep. But she's written several books, and so she comes up a little bit higher in the Google search than I do. But if you do like Michelle May musician, I come up a lot higher. So But anyway, Michelle May. Yes, MichelleMay.net connects me to my business, with my sister AMA and Associates. It connects me. I have my Instagram, my Facebook. Everything really starts there, and that's usually where I just start people off at that point. But love to have you in my world.
Lovely. So we're coming to the end of the show, and it's been so wonderful to speak to you, Michelle. So many gems. I've loved hearing about your story and how helpers need helpers and how we can help ourselves. It's been fantastic to talk to you. Have you got anything for a sort of personal message, some tips or some action steps? Well, give us loads, but we can put anything else that we can leave the audience with today.
Sure. So I would just say, first of all, just as much as you can, try to enjoy life. We're all in various situations, and for some people that's difficult to do. It's difficult to do, but if you can just look and find the positive in any particular moment to try to get you to that next step. As they say, you're not always gonna. Hopefully, you won't always be in a negative space. But give yourself grace and empathy. And for my healers and my helpers, let's be our own best healers and helpers.
Absolutely. That is amazing, Michelle. Thank you so much for being my guest. It's been so wonderful to speak to you, and hopefully we'll speak again soon. I know that you're going to see some people that we know at the weekend, so say hello from Dawn. And I'm hopefully you haven't forgotten me yet, but because I'm unforgettable. But
no, I guess absolutely. I'm so honored to have been here and to talk to everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. So that's it for the Dawn Jarvis show today, which is brought to you by dawnjarvis.com. Take care, and hopefully we'll speak soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Dawn Jarvis Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there are 2 things you can do. Number 1, leave Dawn a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much to her if you took a moment out of your time to post your thoughts on the show. It will help Dawn reach so many more people and help them with their well-being. Number 2, subscribe to Dawn's email list, the Diverse Nurse Digest, using the link in the show notes. Until the next time, thank you and goodbye.